Welcome to the Finer Things. In case you missed it, last week we put out an episode of Tom Finery, where we compared a $150 pair of Sony bookshelf speakers to a $10,000 pair of Sony towers. If you haven't seen it, I would check it out. It's a pretty awesome video, and those speakers for $150 are pretty awesome too. But what are we covering this week?
All right, so this week we are doing the Finer Things podcast, where we cover 2 topics, drink 2 beverages, and smoke 2 cigars. The first part of this podcast, we're going to be smoking the Oliva Serie Mellanio cigar. We're going to be drinking a lovely Chardonnay recommended to us by a local liquor store that's supposed to have some serious malolactic fermentation. And our first topic is going to be some of our favorite wine growing regions.
Back to the Finer Things podcast, guys. So for part 1 here, I'm very, very excited. Covering something that's kind of near and dear to our hearts, our favorite wine growing regions. And if you disagree with us, we hate you. But
no, we definitely don't hate you.
In all actuality, there are so many options. This is not by any means a definitive list. It's really just a look at some things that come to mind for us as, what regions produce some fantastic wine and what type of wines we like from those regions.
For sure.
So today, as far as, the beverage, did cover that a little bit ago, but it's a really, really cool, supposedly really, really cool, highly recommended to us, Niente Chardonnay.
Yep.
out of the Nappy.
Yes, the Nappy Valley.
Out of the Nappy Valley in California.
Yes, Napa Valley, California. They were founded in 1885. They took a 60-year break at the onset of Prohibition.
Yeah, they went out of business.
That is true. But then they went right back into business, and according to the label here, they helped shape the Napa Valley wine industry to what it is today, which is pretty cool. Basically, we went into a local liquor store, and we asked the guy, we said, listen, we're looking for a big Chardonnay. I want something with a lot of malolactic fermentation. And the guy looks at me, and I'm expecting him to be like,
What, Dad?
What? Yeah, like, what did you just say? And the guy's like, oh, man, I am so relieved. You guys are awesome. The fact that you even know what malolactic fermentation is. He got all excited, and, he recommended to us very enthusiastically this particular Chardonnay as just like an awesome bottle for the, it was like $55, something like that.
$55.
Yeah, it's like $55.
Yeah. I've been on a bit of a Chardonnay kick. I forgot what started me down the rabbit hole, but recently I had one of the Cake Bread Chardonnay Reserves, and he was kind of oogling over that, and I was like, oh, I just had that. Let's get something else. And he was like, oh, okay, well, you've had one of the better Chardonnays we have on hand, outside of crazy price point ones. So this was the alternative recommendation, and he was going crazy trying to find one. Yeah, he did find us a bottle, so that was awesome.
Yep.
But anyhow,
had to go in the back.
Yeah,
to get the bottle.
But so why don't you get us poured? And
we'll get us pouring there. Why don't you introduce the cigar while I'm pouring here?
One of my favorites, 2015, I believe, cigar of the year, super well renowned, the Oliva Serie Mellanio. I don't think we've covered this in the show before. I mean, I've smoked like 1 million of these.
Literally 1 million.
Literally, yeah, 1 million. What was that?
Just the smell of that wine is.
Oh wow, yeah, that is big.
This is gonna be a lot of fun, guys.
But yeah, Oliva Serie Mellanio, fantastic stuff. Honestly, I've not yet had an Oliva product I didn't think was freaking great. But this is a staple of mine. I try to always have some on hand, because when I think of fantastic cigars, this is always at the top of the list in my mind. Without spending, again,
crazy
$60 for one cigar.
Buku bucks.
Yeah, even then, it's still pretty phenomenal.
Yep.
Even though it's quite a bit less than that. But okay, well, why don't you kick things off with well, we can get the cigars lit, but why don't you kick things off with your favorite, or one of your favorite
Sure.
wine growing regions?
Well, I guess I'll start with kind of chronologically how I discovered them. Italy is one of my absolute favorite wine growing regions. One of the very first serious wines that I ever had came out of Italy. It was the Villa Vignamaggio 600, which was celebrating their 600th anniversary as
That's
a
crazy.
winery, which is absolutely insane. They claim to be the backdrop of the Mona Lisa. Like, literally, their winery was the backdrop of the Mona Lisa, which is pretty freaking astounding. Like, I don't know if there's any actual truth to that, but that's what they say. And
companies don't lie.
Yeah, yeah, you're a funny guy. But I would say that that particular wine growing region is near and dear to my heart, just because it was the first serious wine that I ever tasted was from that particular area. I find that a lot of Italian wines have this wonderful warmth to them that a lot of other European wines or other wines in the world, for that matter, simply don't have, at least not regularly. There are some exceptions here and there. I can think of like some South African wines that have a certain warmth to them, but typically the Italian wines, it's just so pleasing. Every time I pour myself a nice big red from Italy, or maybe even not a big red, where it's just something on the lighter side, but it still has this just wonderful, pleasing warmth where it's just like,
I
this
taste
is what
the sun, yeah.
Yes, this is what I've been missing, and I'll be honest, I don't actually drink a whole lot of Italian wines, so it's very refreshing. Yeah, I would say that the Italian growing region is really fantastic. If I had to pick a region in Italy, it would probably be Tuscany. It's probably one of my favorite growing regions. It's a tough choice because there are so many different areas in Italy that make really fabulous wines.
Sure.
I'd say Tuscany is probably overall my favorite. Ahmed, what's the first wine growing region that you have that comes to mind while I light my cigar here?
I would say, if we were to stay on Italy, because why not? For me, it's actually largely been a lot of Brunello di Montalcino's that I've had, and same for me. Those were some of my earliest serious wines, where I spent more than $40 or $50, because you kind of have to spend a little bit to get something really nice from there. But the reality is, it's just such a full-bodied wine. It's you tend to get these awesome, dark, ripe fruit flavors, and I really enjoy the complexity. I've had some really fantastic wines out of the region. But trying to think. Moving on. Some of the budget bottles I found have been really, really, really fantastic. And I'm going to group them together, two different countries, but whatever. Australia and New Zealand. And I've absolutely loved a lot of the Malbecs I've gotten out of there.
Malbecs, yeah.
Yeah. I think, there's something to that lighter, fruity flavor.
For sure.
It's more of a in the New World style, in a sense. A lot of the ones that come out of there.
Australia and New Zealand is firmly New World.
Yeah.
Firmly.
But I've really thoroughly enjoyed a few that I've had from there.
Yeah, and touching real quick, Australia, one of my favorite wines from Australia is from this winery called Yangara. And they make a Shiraz, which is very, very common grape as far as Australian wine is concerned. But what makes them special is that they're a biodynamic vineyard. So everything is super organic. They use yeast that is native to that particular area as opposed to importing it. They follow lunar cycles very carefully. Like it's actually a really, really cool thing. And it's kind of tough for me to get my hands on it, but when I can enjoy it, it's incredible because you just get like blue fruit just bam, like in a way that most Shirazes just don't do. It's really awesome. And then, as far as New Zealand goes, their Sauvignon Blancs, they have this very grassy sort of consistency to them that Sauvignon Blancs from the rest of the world simply don't have. Makes them really unique. So that's definitely an area that I enjoy myself. For me, my next growing region that I really appreciate is Spain. I think Spain, as far as an old world growing region, they don't really get enough love. I feel like there are a lot of wines that come out of Spain that are truly exceptional, and they just don't get the same love as their Italian or French counterparts, like the Cavas that come out of Spain, for example. Absolutely phenomenal.
Amazing value.
Yeah, really incredible. There are some awesome Riojas that come out of Spain as well that are, again, very, very enjoyable. The Spanish wines, they tend to have this floral sort of consistency to the reds that I really enjoy. It's very unique. It's just something that is a nice change from your typical European wine. And it's a little bit more on the wild side, I guess you could say, without truly stepping into the new world, where you're still really focusing on the soil, on the earth. And it's important for a moment, I suppose, to make that distinction. Old world wines, typically that's France, Spain, and Italy, with few exceptions. The old world style of making wine favors showing the drinker what the soil, the origins, the terroir, as the French would put it, is all about. So it's all about, you could have a wine that's the same grapes, the same vintner style, and the same process, so to speak, same yeast even, but if it's on different soil, it's going to taste different, and that's the idea of old world wines, is to expose the differences between one land and another. New world wines, on the other hand, are all about the grape, showing differences between the grapes, and not even so much as the difference between, let's say, a Cabernet and a Merlot, but the differences between a Cabernet in California versus a Cabernet in Australia or New Zealand, so on and so forth.
Absolutely.
Again, Spain would be my number 2, as far as wine growing regions there. What
Dip into the Chardonnay.
Yes. I've got to. I think I have to relight this. Let me do that first, because I want to get a good pull on that before dipping in, because you've had yours going there for a while.
Just so good.
I'm sure it is.
So, moving on, we're talking about old world. I love French wine. It's awesome, especially French reds. I tend to be, so in love with. I've had so many, fantastic ones over the last year or two. And the problem is, they're pretty pricey. So what comes to mind for me is, okay, well, what French red can you get those fantastic French old world big, soil and fruit flavors? No, I know, yeah.
We'll get to that in a minute. I'm sorry, finish your thought on the French.
And I always end up landing on, when I'm trying to, drink something nice on a budget, some really nice Côte d'Arons. Because it's kind of an unbeatable value when you talk about French wines.
Very inexpensive, the Côte d'Arons, and they are very tasty for sure.
Yeah, it's it's great to get a fantastic Bordeaux, but to get a really nice one, you have to break open the piggy banks.
Oh, for sure, big piggy banks.
Yes,
for nice Bordeaux or nice Burgundy for that matter. Oh
yeah.
My goodness.
But Côte d'Aron is a great way, and I've had a few. Well, I guess a lot of them are Grenache Syrah blends, and I think I had also a Côte Dauphine or something like that recently.
There are a lot of Côtes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's Côte d'Or, there's Côte de Rôti, there's obviously Côte d'Aron, there's Côte de Nuit. There's a lot.
Côte in my closet.
There may in fact be Côtes in your closet. Yes. It's summertime. That Chardonnay is freaking delicious. I get like and this could be the cigar influencing it, but I get burnt toast.
Oh yeah, I see that.
I think that's very nice.
Obviously, this classic, big, fruity. There's a lot of bite.
Classic for California.
Yeah. Sure.
Because if had this come from France, it would be very, very much more like stone fruit, and you wouldn't get any of like the toasty. This though for $55, my goodness.
Woody, a lot of vanilla. The big, just white grape flavor. It sounds kind of stupid to say, but it's not always that forward. But
this is not subtle. This is an in-your-face Chardonnay,
no, yeah.
and it's really very enjoyable. And I think the cigar only enhances that personally.
It's making the cigar. It's already kind of a sweet cigar. It's really making it sweeter. There's like a real sweetness I'm getting every time I take a pull after I drink. So
it is sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've. I think you're on to number 3.
Yeah, and well, did we? Oh yeah, we did California Chardonnays.
Well, we just talked about it, but we didn't actually mention it as one of our.
Yeah, and oh, there you go. So that's kind of what I'm moving into. Nick's not so into a lot of the California wines. Obviously some are really, really good, but I tend to really, really like. I've had a great, I think it was a Robert Foley, 2010 maybe. It was a cab. Pretty fantastic. It was a Christmas gift actually, and that was the first more serious California wine I had. And really made me think, damn, like this is a region that's probably worth exploring. Aside from that, though, anything I've had from Cake Bread, whether it's is it a Pinot Noir? No, what's the other one? Can't remember. It's a Chardonnay, and the cabs as well from Cake Bread are just great. Very fruit forward. It's a California wine, but still very complex. A lot going on, and especially the Chardonnay Reserve. There is a creamy, woody vanilla that is so refined, but in your face at the same time. I'm chomping at the bit to grab another one of those, and not cheap, not crazy expensive. Typically about $75-$80. So not something you want to drink every day, but well, something you want to drink every day, but something you should drink every day. But yeah, no, pretty fantastic.
Yep, definitely. While Ahmed favors California for some New World from the States, I tend to prefer Oregon myself. Oregon and Washington are kind of melded together because the growing region kind of splits the difference between the two states. And they put out a lot of fantastic wines, and there's a lot of like organic wines that come from that region for whatever reason. I think there are actually certain laws that govern how the wine is produced.
It's also trendy sort of place, I guess,
Yeah, trendy
Oregon
is a good way to describe it for sure. But like I'd mentioned earlier, one of the best Chardonnays I've ever had has come from Oregon. I've had a lot of stuff from Washington that has been absolutely fantastic as well. And just overall, as far as New World is concerned, it's not as alcohol forward as some of the Californian wines, because Californian wines can be pretty heavy hitters, like 15-16% sometimes. And not that that's bad, and you can certainly taste like the sun seriously from that, but there's just, I don't know, it seems like in the lack of alcohol that the Oregon and Washington wines have, by those few percentage points, they make up for it in just layers and layers of complexity, and it's just, to me, so much more enjoyable. That's just my humble opinion, of course. But that's my number 3. Number 3.
I suppose.
Yeah, something like that. We're not really keep track here.
I had a really fun, fruity, cheap, relatively simple, but really inoffensive, just a nice drinker from Washington. Merlot, the Velvet Devil, they call it. Good stuff. Good stuff. Really cheap. $16 or something like that.
That's very inexpensive.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's recommended. Yeah, if you're looking for something to just have with dinner or something like that.
Absolutely.
It's quite nice. And especially for a Merlot, some questionable Merlots out there.
There are a lot of questionable Merlots out there. You know what? Actually, there aren't a lot of questionable Merlots out there. There are a lot of Merlots that are simply okay.
Yeah, it's true.
I feel like the Merlot grape has gotten a bad rap for being characterized as simply okay.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you can have an absolutely knock your socks off, fantastic, fabulous Merlot, and people just don't know.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
Sure.
Merlot used to be very, very popular.
Yeah.
But right now it isn't.
Sure.
But I think that certain grapes, they go in and out of popularity in the wine communities. And, it's just it's difficult. So yeah.
I'm gonna go back to France. Just to touch on Champagne. My biggest complaint, I'll say, about Champagne or the public perception of Champagne is that it's only something you have to celebrate something. That's
fair.
true unless you're a degenerate, and we are. So, but in all seriousness, Champagne is really good. It's not cheap, so it's oftentimes I get why people only use it in a celebratory capacity for that reason.
Hey, if you think about how small the growing region in Champagne is, like it's very, very small, and that's one thing that actually bothers me as well, is that a lot of people look at any sparkling wine and call it champagne. Like, I'm sorry, no, that's not how that works.
Sure.
Not even in the slightest. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I love the chalky sort of flavor that you get from champagne, and just like how subtle it can be sometimes.
Yeah. There's a distinct, we say this constantly, it feels like, but there's a very distinct funk. It's like a soury, like a really, really sort of long fermented bread,
Yes.
like an intense sourdough, that some champagnes have,
Yep.
and I love it. With the flavor of that chalky soil,
Oh, yeah.
and the really developed, funky, just lip smacking funk that some really good champagnes have. 2015 Dom Perignon comes to mind. The 2010 Gosset is what we had.
I believe it was a 2010.
Yeah, that's another one. It's much simpler relative to some other wines, or some other really complex champagnes. But
Not quite as expensive as the Dom.
yeah, it's not as expensive, and so you get jaded with these things. And I haven't even really had the hyper expensive ones, but I had some really nice Moets.
Got to get ourselves a nice bottle of Krug.
Yeah, one of the higher end ones.
Yeah.
We definitely should. But Champagne, there are very, very few wines, sparkling or not, but predominantly sparkling, that are able to produce that sort of flavor. And yeah, you can kind of get it with some Proseccos, you can kind of get it with some Cavas, but
There's still an element that's missing from those,
there's something
as
special about
wonderful
Champagne.
as the Cavas are. They're very, very fantastic
Yes.
for the money. I would drink Cava all day long if I didn't know that Champagne existed.
And
Honestly.
it's just phenomenal as Cava is, and again, extremely complex in some scenarios. Just doesn't feature that feature. Doesn't feature that flavor profile.
The chalkiness from the limestone in the Champagne growing region of France. I mean, that's literally what gives it the unique flavor. It's really something. Let's see. My number 4. I'm gonna go with Argentina.
Yeah, I've had some great. I think Mendoza is the brand.
Yeah, well, Mendoza's the area. There are a couple
there you
different
go.
areas in Argentina. Mendoza is like the main area, and that's where like Argentinian Malbecs, for example, which have a formidable reputation. That's where they come into play, it's really it's really just big and bold and dry. You really don't get the warmth that that you would get in, let's say, an Italian wine
Or an Australian Malbec.
or an Australian Malbec, absolutely, because yeah, I mean, there's lots of sun there. But in Argentina, they don't have as much sun, but it's very unique. You can get sometimes like. In addition to like the red fruit that you can expect, some purple fruit that you get from those Malbecs, sometimes you can get like herbal notes or minty notes that are very interesting, you really the vintners are able to kind of show off their abilities, because if left to its own devices, one Malbec from Mendoza can taste very much like another Malbec from Mendoza, but there are a lot of different vintners, and they can impart their own sort of character on those particular wines. So it's very enjoyable and entertaining to kind of go back and forth and taste those different wines, and kind of go from there. It's really cool.
Yeah, this card never gets old for me.
No, it's very enjoyable.
It's just a nuttiness. It's kind of buttery in a way.
It is buttery. Yep. I think that's only enhanced by the Chardonnay. The
Absolutely.
barrel-aged Chardonnays, with the malolactic fermentation, they tend to have that buttery sort of consistency. Oh, and I should mention malolactic fermentation. I kind of touched upon that earlier, just a little bit. I threw the term out there, but malolactic fermentation is essentially the process that the Chardonnay grapes, in particular, go through when they are exposed to oak barrels, and that's what gives the toasty, sometimes popcorny sort of consistency to the Chardonnays. It also brings out big tropical fruits. You can get like pineapple, mango, things like that if if really heavy malolactic fermentation has occurred. Here, I would say with this wine that a medium level of malolactic fermentation has occurred, because we haven't quite got to popcorn, but we got toast, and we got butter. We might even have buttered toast, and the fruits are bold and big for sure. I don't know if they're quite tropical, but it's definitely a big flavor. So, malolactic fermentation.
Rutabaga.
Rutabaga. You heard it from us first. Oh my goodness. That's going to be a thing.
Seems like it. Trying to think. German Rieslings. Awesome. I've only had like one or two, but
I've had a few.
That sweet, fruity, but not quite in the New World way. It's a little different.
The German Rieslings are interesting because there are many different ways that the Germans make their Rieslings. So some of the Rieslings are bone dry, and they're not sweet. Then there are the semi-dries, and then there are the the residual sugar Rieslings, I'll call them to be polite. And then beyond that, and that's, by the way, increasing levels of sweetness, and you can get to the point where even New World Rieslings, it's like, no, these are like candy compared to those. It's crazy. But then beyond that, there's the late harvest Rieslings. And those are, essentially when they wait until it's very, very late in the season, the grapes have maybe experienced a little bit of cold, they've kind of shriveled up a little bit, and they've concentrated in their flavors, and they just make these just super, super potent, concentrated wines, and they are really something special. Very, very sweet, though. You really have to enjoy them quite cold in order to not be overwhelmed by their sweetness, but it's well worth the effort because their flavors are very concentrated. It's really something. The Austrians do something similar, those are nice. The German Rieslings are definitely nice. They're very enjoyable. I'm going to once again go back to France. I know we seem to go to France a lot, and I wanted to save kind of this region for last, to me the the Bordeaux growing region of France is probably one of my favorite areas if I'm going to sit down and have a serious wine, a really serious wine. And maybe I'll pair it with a nice meal. Maybe I won't. Typically I will. I would go for something in the Bordeaux growing region. Chateau Margaux comes to mind. Chateau Petrus comes to mind. Pauillac comes to mind.
Let's buy some to age in almost 40 years from now.
Yeah, yeah. Pretty pricey. I have had Chateau Margaux twice in my life. Of the literally, at this point, thousands of wines that I have drank, I've had Chateau Margaux twice. Very, very pricey stuff. I had a younger one from 1999, and I had an older one from 1961. The 61 was spine-tingling. Like, it was otherworldly. It was easily the best wine I've ever had in my entire life. And I was far too young to appreciate the true breadth, the true scope of that wine. Like, there was so much going on, and my palate could not even comprehend it. But what my palate could comprehend was just like a multitude of flavors just coming in waves and waves and waves, and it just kept going and going and going. And this is only after one sip. The finish, it just seemed like it went forever. And it was just so smooth. It was never harsh. The tannins were completely dissipated from aging. And it was just, I wish I could have it again, but it's pretty pricey stuff. The 1999 was a fatal error on my part. I bought it because I could afford it, and not because of what it was, per se. It wasn't ready to be drank, and I had it probably 30 years too soon, and it was awful. It was absolutely awful. Folks, you've heard it from me. Don't get a Chateau Margaux any newer than like 1990 right now, because it's not ready to drink at all. Not even close. You're not going to enjoy it. You're going to get a bad taste in your mouth and never want to do it again. Like, if you're going to do a Chateau Margaux, you need to have something that's been aged 30, 40 years before it can really, truly develop into the exceptional wine that all the critics say it's going to be. So I can't emphasize that enough. But yeah, that's like, I had to kind of save that as my final hurrah. My number 5 there, favorite growing region.
I'm gonna hit you with most underrated and most overrated regions.
In my opinion?
No, by empirical fact. Yeah, of course.
Yes, empirical fact. Well, we actually have an on-site audience today that's going to determine that. Well, it's kind of tough to say because there's so many different growing regions. I feel like California overshadows the Washington, Oregon growing region, and they don't get as much credit as they deserve. Italy and France overshadow Spain. They don't get as much credit as they deserve. I feel like you can get some truly exceptional Australian wines, and I feel like there are companies like Yellowtail, which have kind of ruined that for Australia. That might be one of the most underrated growing regions, in my humble opinion. One of the most overrated wine growing regions, in my opinion, would be New York State. That's right, we're from New York State. The reason why I feel that way is, early on in my wine tasting, I was encouraged to try a lot of local wines, and I have no problem with that. I like supporting local businesses. But there's just something missing from the New York wines. They're not as complex. They're not as refined. They're not as smooth as a lot of other wines. And I'm just talking New World. Forget the Old World, because that's a totally different level, in my humble opinion. They just seem like, okay, this is nice to have as a table wine. Pair it with a meal. You'll get a couple of notes out of it, maybe, if you're lucky. But it's not really I'm actually more enthusiastic about beers from New York than I am wine, if that makes any sense at all. But that's just how I feel. What do you feel?
Overrated? I don't know. I feel like I'm not even well versed enough to make a statement like that. But underrated, I have to say Spain. Of the 3 or 4, maybe 5 now Spanish wines I've had, loved each one.
Oh yeah.
And thought they were way undervalued.
Totally.
The cavas, yeah. And honestly, I'm trying to
Cavas
think.
are amazing.
What grape was that Spanish red we had with the chocolate a while back? I think it was a Catalina.
That might have been the growing region. I thought it was a Rioja. I'd have to double check.
No, it was a Catalina. Was the growing region.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the grape I think was a Rioja.
Yeah. Yeah, it might have been. Yeah. That sounds right.
Yeah.
That sounds right. That was awesome.
Yep.
That was
like a Reserva something.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. So that was definitely a finer vintage
but
style
still,
there.
it was
but,
$40 maybe. I don't remember.
yeah, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
It was not that bad at all.
And again, the what is it, the Juve and Comps, one of the other.
Juve and Comps.
Awesome stuff. I've had both their more entry level and their reserve, both fantastic. Worth their weight in gold. The entry level is like $15. The better ones, I think, like 35. And if I had paid 35 and 70 respectively, double the price, or more than double for the 15, I still would have thought, oh wow, yeah, no, I see why people pay this. I'm in a love affair with Cava. It's awesome stuff. I just got the
really
weirdest thing, and tell me if I'm out of my mind. I don't know. The intermingling of the wine and the cigar. Chocolate milk. For a hot second. It just
I do see that. Chocolate milk that kind of transitions into like the fruity notes that you get from the wine, which
so
is kind
weird.
of funny.
Yeah,
hey
I don't
guys, if you're at home right now, break into your fridge, get some chocolate milk, and just squeeze some
muddle grapes into it.
Muddle white grapes into it. Let us know how that tastes. It's probably awful, but how these intermingle, I can't help but think that. But at the same time, it's not disgusting. It's actually quite tasty.
Yeah,
it's a very good pairing.
Chocolate milk and grapes.
Yeah,
that's the way to do it.
Yep. Peanut butter on pancakes.
Yeah. No, that is some North Dakota, as the hat would indicate.
Oh.
Yeah.
How about that?
I went to North Dakota. They had some really crazy stuff. They had a famous footwear. That was really something.
Wait, but aren't there famous footwears all over the place?
Yeah, but that's a real highlight for North Dakota.
Oh my gosh.
No, in all seriousness, random factoid, North Dakota, pretty cool. You could visit this place called Jamestown, and there's the world's largest buffalo. You could probably say your life's complete after seeing that. It has balls. Just saying. And they actually have some actual buffaloes there. And you can feed them. You can go, oh, come here, buffalo ball. You feed them. That's what I did.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. I can't say I've ever been to North Dakota.
They don't make wine. It's cold there.
Yeah. I can imagine it would be very cold during the winter time there. Probably not my cup of tea. I tend to prefer the warmer climates personally. It's my favorite.
North Dakota.
Oh my goodness. By the way, something that we haven't featured that's been sitting on the table this whole time is this guy right here. This is one of my favorite books pertaining to alcohol. This guy is called The Wine Bible. And essentially this gives us a wealth of information as far as not only wine growing regions, but how wine is made, what we can expect from particular combinations of grapes and soil, and just the author, Karen McNeil, just like her amount of expertise in this particular subject that we are just stumbling through is unfathomable. She has more than a lifetime's worth of knowledge when it comes to this stuff, and that's an awesome book. If you want to get into wine tasting or have an understanding about the wines that you're drinking, that's the book to buy. And you know, it's got a little index in back, so you don't have to read through the whole thing. You can kind of just flip to the particular wine or grape that you're looking for, and it'll have awesome stuff for you to read there. Recommended wines, for that matter. It's pretty cool.
You know, my 2 cents, and for some reason, you know, came to my mind. Damn, that chocolate milk looked damn. I'm telling you, I don't know, it just keeps happening to me. It's just not there, and then all
Brings
of a sudden,
me back to elementary school.
all of a sudden I breathe, and I'm like, oh yeah, chalky milky. There it is.
Chalky milky for my chicky nuggies.
That's it's like a 1-sentence embodiment of my girlfriend's personality. Oh, yeah. She didn't even respond.
No, that's okay.
But
she's giving me the evil eye now. Oh boy.
Oh goodness. But what I was gonna say is, you know, folks that I just think it's far too common that people don't branch out. They find a couple, you know,
They find their
$15
comfort zone,
bottle wines. You know, oh, I only drink sweet wines, or I drink, you know, a lot of yellowtail, or
Yep.
oh, you know what? Forget what I was saying. That's bullshit. Just buy better wine. That's the summation of that.
Yes.
Try new things.
Absolutely. Branch out.
If we're talking about overrated things, I'm going to talk about anything from Santa Margarita.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh,
And
my
I
goodness.
spent like $50 on a Santa Margarita bottle a while back. Maybe it was like $40, but still.
Was it like a 175? Like, or was it like a proper regular
Oh no,
size?
it was a regular fifth.
What? $40?
Bad.
Yeah.
Not a
Their
good
stuff
wine.
is terrible.
Not a good wine. I bought it
Oh,
only on price
man.
point. I was like, you know what? I want something decent. I've heard this name before. I've definitely seen it around. Probably decent, right?
I'm
no.
so sorry.
Bad.
I am so sorry.
Don't do it. Another one, way overrated. Not terrible, but like the Rufino, like Chianti Classicos.
Yeah.
There are much
Yeah.
better Chianti wines out there.
There certainly are. For same price point.
You know, again, I was a sucker to like marketing in this case, where I had seen it a bunch on The Sopranos of all things.
Yeah.
I guess they might have been a sponsor or something, because they must have been, because that wine is like subtly in like 15 different scenes.
Yeah, yeah. Product placement for sure. For sure.
And you notice that stuff when you watch something like a Maniac, like I do, so again and again. But anyhow, though.
You are a maniac.
But
You know another brand, if we're gonna get into it, that's overrated. Barefoot. Ugh.
but to be fair, I don't think anybody considers Barefoot to be like good, do they?
I don't think they do. I would hope not.
Barefoot, Yellowtail. There's other ones I can't think of right now.
Arbor Mist.
Rosso, I think is the one that they give me those jugs.
Yeah, something like that.
How about this big dumb
So
jugs?
a lot of those large companies like that do very good in marketing. And,
Franza.
Yeah, Franzia.
Franzia, yes.
In particular, Yellowtail Barefoot. They actually use a lot of chemicals in their wine.
They taste like it.
Well, yeah, and some of those wines don't even include grapes.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Some of them are totally synthetic, and it's just nasty, and they're full of sulfites, and it's just like hangover central. Hangover central. Absolutely atrocious.
Oh, is the bottle empty?
No. Do you want some more?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, please have some more. That pour slow.
You know,
I've got this cute little aerator on the bottle, so we didn't have to decant the wine. Not that this needed it. You'll have to look when you're done pouring. I don't think we looked at the year of this particular shard.
18, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, not that old, honestly, for Chardonnay. Chardonnays can age. Let me tell you, because the grape is so thick-skinned. Yeah, 18. Because the grape, relatively, for white grapes, is so thick-skinned, there's actually a good deal of tannins that are in Chardonnays, and they can age like really, really long.
I mean, it's obviously not an apples to apples comparison, but
No, but relative to other white wines, they can age for a while.
Oh no, my point was not that it's apples to apples because this is a far Niente and that was a cake bread, but the cake bread I had was a 2012, significantly more developed, smoother, but in a huge way. I'm riding cake breads, you know what, but
no, man, I don't know.
Phallic tube. I don't want to bleep things. What's going on YouTube, man?
yeah. No. I didn't expect you to actually dignify that with a response.
Cigar-shaped organs.
Yes. But
elongated, but firm.
Winemaking process. Yes. That will be how we describe cake bread if we ever feature it on the show. Will be an elongated but firm winemaking process.
Yeah, no.
We will say it deadpan as well. We'll practice beforehand to make sure that there won't be any trace of laughter or smirking. We'll just say elongated but firm winemaking process.
I don't need to practice. I can say anything straight-faced. Just about.
Yeah, that's just about.
There are these, forgot the name, but there are these long, tube-shaped things. You put one end in the mouth. You don't really want to get your teeth on it. You end up getting the tip pretty wet, and you suck out, you suck through it, I guess, is really what it is, and you get this this awesome sort of white substance. Cigars, yeah.
That's right, cigars.
That's what it is.
I was thinking about that. Cigars. Pretty tasty, the Oliva Serie Mellanio. Pretty tasty.
Oh no, yeah, it's a legend. It's so good. It's so good. It's so hard not to enjoy.
High quality binders. We can really get this cherry going.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. It's I've been gnashing it once in a while, but yeah, no, it's definitely something. And burns nice and evenly.
Oh yeah. No real issues lighting it. There's some cigars where you really gotta keep the matches going.
Yeah, where it can definitely be a pain in the neck. Yeah.
And it's just I don't know. No, this is easy breezy cover girl. So we've covered at this point our favorite wine growing regions. We've covered this lovely Far Niente Chardonnay, which props to the gentleman who recommended it to us.
I wish I remember the name of the liquor store. I definitely shout it out.
Yeah, for sure.
Wine Chateau.
Yes,
I think that was the name.
I think so.
In New Jersey.
It was in Jersey. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, that was definitely enjoyable. We'll have to go back there.
Yeah, 100%.
Just to tell him, be like, hey,
guy.
Your wine's in a video.
Yeah.
We made a video about your wine. It was that good.
For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching at home. It's a quiet audience.
Yeah, crickets. Even our camera operator is left now. It's just you. It's just you and I just sitting here. Absolutely.
The only
crazy.
people that matter.
Well, except for our viewers, of course. Which, speaking of viewers,
the only people that don't matter, I think.
We do this stuff for you guys, right? We want to make sure that we're as entertaining and as ridiculous as possible, because I think in these videos we've become more and more ridiculous pretty quickly, I must say. From my lovely experience with a certain bottle of champagne. You poured yourself pretty heavy there, my man. From my lovely experience with the bottle of champagne that I tried opening on our first Finer Things podcast, all the way up to
oh no!
all the way up to recently our expertise in savoring a
Yeah, please.
bottle of
Seriously,
Prosecco.
check out that video. It
Oh
will
my
have been
goodness.
a few weeks ago by the time this comes out, maybe 3 or 4. But that'll be what is that? A just fine. That'll be a just fine that we did.
Yep.
Just about Prosecco as a concept. and how
Prosecco in
it's-
general,
Yeah,
yeah.
how it's just an awesome, inexpensive, relatively speaking, alternative.
For sure.
to champagne.
Another type of wine that just doesn't get enough love because everybody goes after champagne, or at least what they think is champagne. And they're not thinking about the Italian alternative, which is pretty nifty there. From one experience to the next, we want to make this enjoyable for you guys. So if you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments box below. If you enjoy our content, certainly feel free to give this video a like, and if you love the direction that our channel is going, certainly feel free to subscribe to our channel. There's a little button that says subscribe below this video. It's pretty cool.
Little bell next to it.
Yeah,
You
the
can,
bell is the coolest part, actually.
Yes, ring the bell
Yep.
if you actually want to be notified. But
If you ring the bell, pancakes with peanut butter will be delivered to your front door.
you might even become a pancake with peanut butter.
You may. No guarantees, though. It only happens to certain people.
Only if you believe hard enough. But well, really, the alternative way outside of subscribing is you can sit in a dark room and close your eyes and say North Dakota, North Dakota, North Dakota. And,
Or better yet, which most people sitting in a dark room, what they end up doing is they end up going on social media, and they check out our Facebook page and our Instagram, and maybe sometimes our Twitter. I don't know. I'm not really into the whole.
We
Twitter
check it
thing.
out sometimes.
Yeah. We look into that maybe on occasion, but we're really more on Facebook and Instagram. But definitely give us a check out there too, and I think that does it.
or on YouTube too.
What? We have a YouTube station? Since when?
Whoa.